Hi there, this is Jim the Keys bartender. Oh, well, now it's working. You know, who'd have thought?
That's a
I'm here
good
with
thing.
Papa Joe. Yeah. Uh,
Hey,
I,
we're on.
yeah,
Hey.
I spend like 10 minutes writing all the stuff to put in the what shows in the live feed. And when it cancels out, it cancels all that stuff. So I don't have anything other than episode 327. But I did put a precursor in for I posted on Facebook that we were going to be going live, and but you know what? I don't think people know how to. I figure it. I don't. We're not. If we're going live, I don't know if it pops up on Facebook. I got to figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's only on Spreaker that they know it's live. Are you there?
I am.
Okay. So there's only whoever is on Spreaker. There may be only. I mean, it's. I'm not trashing Spreaker, but iTunes is the biggest streamer of this, and they get it as a pre-recorded episode. Did I introduce myself, Jim Keys bartender? I'm here with Papa Joe and all that stuff.
Yeah, you did.
Okay, I forgot. I forgot. It's Thursday, but you know I've done this so many times that I don't get flustered anymore. I don't get all red in the face and shit like that, Joe. So
No, why?
yeah, and
The
I
way it
don't.
goes sometimes.
Yeah, and if people don't know how to get a hold of that, that's more my problem than theirs. But then again, like I said before, and I don't know if it's right, a podcast isn't the genre for live shows normally. But I figure you can get a couple of them. I would thought it'd be nice, like if we got a call from Russia or something like that, or India, because right now in India, I think it's probably 2 in the morning or something like that, or midnight. I'm thinking, what, 10 hours? It's 5 hours in Poland. It's 7 in the evening. So it's like probably like 2 in the morning in India. We have some listeners in India and the Russian Federation, which is over how many freaking time zones? 14 time zones?
Yeah, something ridiculous.
Yeah. So I got to take these mints out. I've been going crazy with these mints. Wintergreen lifesavers. I've been doing that since I've been wearing a mask because, I drink a lot of coffee. I don't want to gross anybody out, but it's, you don't want to be smelling coffee breath the whole time.
Yeah,
So,
no, I get the same thing. It's just like, give me a mint.
yeah. Well, Joe, do you ever experience this when you go into work? Uh, I'm I guess manic. I guess I'm manic, slightly, where you're not in that great a mood and you just trudge on through and do your job.
Oh, yeah. I think a lot of people kind of have those days.
And well, I mean, I can only speak. I don't want to be one of those people that speak as if everyone goes through the same thing. And I was doing that yesterday. I had a little headache, a little tension going on, going in there, and uh, it was a bunch of things going on. And the first thing that happens when I go into work at the Catch Restaurant is uh, somebody comes in without a mask, a guy, right? I guess he's in his early 30s, big guy, and he and I are looking at each other, and I look at him and goes, "Where's your mask?" He goes, "I don't have a mask." And I go, I said, "Well, you got to have a mask when you come in." Because, "Well, I'm here now." And I go, "Well, you take the mask off when you sit down." And he takes a chair and he sits in a place he's not supposed to sit. So I said, "First of all, no." I said, "You don't have a mask in your car or anything?" And he goes, "No." I said, "How can you not have a mask or anything?" He just looks he doesn't say anything, gives me one of those dead eye stares, right?
Jesus,
I
yeah.
guess it's kind of intimidating, right? To some people. Uh, I just went, I put my hands up and shrugged. I go, "Got to have a mask." Guy looks at me, he's like, "What do you mean?" Like, his hands go up, and I'm like, You're not getting served. I think the guy, I thought he said originally that he was going to order to go, right? But it turns out he may have ordered already to go because we had an order that wasn't picked up, and the previous worker who took the order didn't get a phone number, so we didn't get a chance to really call them for to check up. But the guy went out, and people thought he was going out to get the mask. I said, I don't think he's going out to get the mask. I think he was very pissed off, and so that I was already in the mood when I came in, and this happened 10 minutes into my shift, right?
Right.
So I'm like, and there was tension there. You can't hide it, it's just tension. You're dealing with that, and I'm sorry for other people that have to do it, but it piled on that feeling I had coming into work, and then it turns around. About a half hour later, or an hour later, a couple comes in who came in just to see me. They always call me to see when I'm working. I thought that was nice. And then another couple came in, and they told the owner came over and says, Jim, go over to that table. And I said, what did I do to these people? Go over to this table. And it's another couple, and they said, no, they came in here 2 years ago, and they said they came in just to see you. And they were very, I won't go into what they said. They said some very nice things, though. And that just turned it around for me. Everything.
Yeah, I would imagine. I bet you felt pretty good after that.
Yeah. But, I thought, then I thought, it made me think I shouldn't really be dependent on how, because happiness and all those things, good moods are a choice, right? And I did appreciate this. I think it would be an act of, self-praise to talk about why they came in, why they do it, and stuff like that. But it really shouldn't matter. And I told the people, I said, that makes every time in my head, right? I realize this perception that I'm a bartender at a family restaurant. I realize that. I'm 57 years old, and people say, well, you seem like an intelligent gentleman. Why are you bartending? You hear people say that all the time. So what are you doing here? Why don't you have a different job? Why aren't you maximizing your earning potential? And it's pretty much being able to contact people like that. I don't know how lawyers and dentists and mechanics deal with that, because they always deal with people like, I'm sorry, this is going to be $1,400, or dentist, I'm going to drill into the roots of your teeth. Or a lawyer is saying, hey, it's $300 an hour for me thinking about it when I'm at home, and you're just thinking all that stuff. They got to deal with it, right? A police officer like you, right? You were in law enforcement. Those,
you seldomly gave good news. That's for sure.
Yeah, and the interactions are stressful and things like that. And I'm not saying I'm not getting in on the political side of it. And I realize there are bad police officers and bad suspects. So they're all out there. But I'm talking pointedly. Yeah, how you interact with the public.
Right. It all stems from what's inside of you that you project out, and your ability to manage, control, to use the what we call the verbal judo.
Yeah.
But your outlook has a lot to do with it. If you're just a miserable curmudgeon, yeah, you're going to have the results that follow.
Yeah.
But if your general outlook is positive, you're entitled to a bad day. But you know what? If your outlook wasn't positive, I don't care who would have come in and said nice things about you. You probably still would have been miserable. But you're not that person.
Well, you can get in a rut and get into that thing where that's the way you become. You just fit yourself.
Oh yeah, listen, I
miserable.
grew up with some people. No. I grew up with some people in the neighborhood that they were just kind of miserable curmudgeons. They were funny in their own right because they were never happy.
Yeah.
But you could sit there and praise them all day long, and they would give you a smile. But you know what? It didn't shift them from being, by choice, miserable. That's what made them comfortable.
Yeah.
They were just miserable. Some people are just like that. but you're entitled as a generally happy person, to be affected by your environment or your health, your mental outlook, and maybe have a bad day. But like I'm saying, it's because you're generally positive that those people who came in and said those nice things and they were there just to see you, that you immediately shifted. It sounded like it shifted, and it kind of changed your outlook. And that's the way life is. We kind of feed off of each other that way. We kind of need, we need other people. You can't live life on your own. Unlike a curmudgeon that really doesn't care about other people, they're not affected by anything, really.
Well, I mean, no one starts their life out. Remember those commercials? No, there was an anti-drug commercial. No one starts out saying they want to be a drug addict or a drug dealer, or
right.
No one starts out life and says, you know what would really be great if when I get older, people know me as a miserable motherfucker. Right?
No, things generally happen to cause it. It's true, but
I know some people get it and they get that thing and they use that as a substitute for personality.
Yes, indeed.
You know, I'm talkative. I'm egotistical. I talk about myself a lot. I mentioned to someone I'm kind of, but I think I'm narcissistic on that same way as everyone is on that. Just like human sexuality, people are on a sliding scale, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the same thing, But when it comes to happiness and the point of mood, you always hear people say, "I never let anybody affect my mood," and that's I call bullshit.
Well, I mean, it's a lofty goal, but I think everyone is eventually at some point affected by other people, right?
Yeah, I mean, you do. You eventually do. You can say I seldom let other people affect me.
Right. That's more realistic. That's more.
I seldom. And I wouldn't say that about myself. I would like to say that I attempt to not let other people affect my. But sometimes you're. Did you ever see the Never-Ending Story?
Yes.
Remember that his horse gets caught in the swamp?
Yes.
It's depression. And what a wonderful what a wonderful depiction of depression as this quicksand that sucks you in and you're done. And life can do that to people, if you got enough around you, if you don't figure a way of getting out of it, you're done.
Yeah, you just feel stuck.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to be a person that was internally motivated to be happy, but I look for it. If you look for the positive, you might have a better chance of finding it. That's the way I view it for most people, right? It sounds like bullshit, but you try not to be dwelling in negative too much. But that's the way it was at work. It was a beautiful day yesterday. It's a beautiful day today. We had some lovely people come in. And we are live right now if anybody is listening. And you know what? I don't think since the inception of the show we've ever had more than 3 people listen live. I saw the statistics. Now, some of the episodes had over 800 to 1,200, 1,500, 2,000 listeners, especially the Irma ones. But I've seen the stats, and I think a lot has to do with me not making it available and figuring that out. And you know what? I think I'm setting the table for it, for talking about it. And remember about saying that number. For that one person who might be listening right now, the number is 407-392-4563. And when you call, if you do call, then it is, you are on. There's no screening or anything here. Maybe I might be able to figure that out. Have someone screen calls and patch them in. I mean, I can figure that out. But who wants... I mean, I don't want to get all that equipment. If you're going to call right now, he's going to. But, if it ever comes a time when it becomes a problem, I just won't make it live anymore. I'll just record it and then release it, right? Or I'll just tell people.
But in the meantime.
Yeah, did I say the number? 407-392-4563. It's always going to be that number whenever we're live. And if you can figure out if you could come tell me how you found it, it's probably through Spreaker. What I have to do is post the live feed on Facebook, right? Or maybe I'll do a Facebook live stream at the same time like I did before, where I'm recording, and I don't know if that'll take up too much bandwidth and interrupt the show. But
would that require to have? Would that require to have two phones?
No, I'm using the laptop, and the phone call comes in. It's funny. People, if I did the Facebook one streaming live, it would just be me. You wouldn't hear you, right?
Right.
And unless I know there's so much, but then again, there's radio shows. I don't think people call in to these remote radio shows when they do those location ones. And we get as many listeners after the fact as they get. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Because sometimes
it's just that they're not around. They're not around during the live show.
Yeah. So, and then one other thing I want to talk about every so often I have some really nice. They're all really nice people that come in. But I'm not a knick-knack person. I told you that before. I don't do collectibles.
Yeah.
And but when someone gives you something, I feel incumbent upon me to take it, thank them, and put it in someplace. One of these guys, Van, he listens to the show from the beginning 3 years ago. He's from Alabama originally, a nice guy, and he brought me this soapstone aircraft. It was about 6 inches by 8 inches. One of those water planes, the planes that have the skis, the pontoons for landing on water that they use in Alaska.
Okay.
For traveling the coast and stuff like
this
that.
Is like a model plane?
Yeah. And was carved out of soapstone. He bought it thinking it was. He bought it in a bar in Alaska from a Native American woman, a Native Alaskan, I guess, woman, which is America too. And they said it was jade. And I'm looking at it; it doesn't look like jade, but it looks like soapstone, which is softer, and it was more brittle, and part of it broke. It was broken before he gave it to me, but which sounds like a less than stellar gift, but it was a thought that counts. It was just I don't know why he gave it to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I take it, I put it up there, and then Abby moves them wherever. She puts them on my desk, I guess, or something like that. But I have a tendency to try to get rid of things that are clutter. But when something's given to you, But I figure if I say enough, I say I'm not a knick-knack guy. You send me a card, send me a note, I'll keep the note. I'll keep a note. See, I'm making it cheaper for people. If you want to write something that I keep, write a note or something. I'll remember it, I'll keep it, and things like that. So that's it's just one of the things you get with people that come in. It's really nice, I think. But when my mood changed yesterday, I'm drinking coffee, I'm feeling good about myself, and I heard someone say something, and it made me think of, they said priest and nuns. And when they said priest and nuns, for some reason I started thinking of this is a weird association. Freud would never be able to figure this out, Joe. I heard priests and nuns, and I thought Oklahoma, the musical.
Why would you go there?
Because I thought this. I heard priest and nuns and Pope Spat or Scurry when I'm out and, like that. right?
Oh God,
That
your
was the
mind,
thing. And I said,
your mind is fucked up, man.
I know it is fucked up. And I thought it was going to be kind of like a Catholic Oklahoma, right? And I said to him, the land rush was in 1890, right? See, I got this whole thing. This is it's too much fucking coffee, Joe. That's the thing. And I said I can rework the whole thing because they do that all the time. You know, it's a parody. I know it's a parody, but you know, I'm thinking, well, 1870 was when the reunification of Italy occurred. Okay, this is where I get. How do you make the link with Catholics in Oklahoma? And you could call it.
I don't know, but we're about to find out.
Yeah, you can call it Catholicoma, or something like that. But when Italy was forming itself into a nation state in the late 1800s, it was actually after World War I where they got the rest of Italy together. But the Papal States had a big section of it, and I think it was 1870, 1880, the newly formed Italian nation state seized most of the papal lands, right? Now, if they had gone all the way and seized even Vatican City, the Pope could have said, well, that's it, I'm moving. And the United States was thinking, well, hey, we had Oklahoma. It was an Indian territory. And, you know, eventually they were going to open it up to the settlers, right? 1890, the land rush, you know, breaking once again the agreement they had with the Indians they gave it to. It was supposed to be an Indian state. So they could just offer it to, and the Pope goes, well, I got to move. Where am I going to move? And then they, you know, whoever was the president at that time, which would have been probably Grant, right? And then whoever was after Grant would say, oh, well, we don't like Catholics over here, and we don't like Indians. Why don't we put all the Catholics? We'll offer Oklahoma to the Pope. I mean, call it Popelahoma. Popelahoma. That'll be it. Popelahoma.
How about Pokelahoma?
Yeah, Pokelahoma, Popelahoma, and stuff like that. You have, you know, all the different songs. But then I thought it'd be too controversial. I wouldn't be able to sell it because what would you do? Some people may. I'm thinking of all the other songs. Oh, what a beautiful morning, and then I thought the cowman and the farmer should be friends. The priest and the altar boy should be friends. And then I said, wait, then there's the sore spot right there. No pun intended. The sex abuse scandal. And I said, that'll probably fail. And then I thought about all these other things. I think I know why. I'll tell you why at the end. But then I thought about all these other musicals, right? And the West Bank Story, right? Instead of West Side Story.
West Bank?
Yep. Be Malika and Menachem, right? Malika is a Palestinian, and Menachem is a Jewish settler. And they can do all that, you know. I've just met a girl named Malika, and you know, they hate each other. So I mean, it works perfectly for that, right? And
yeah,
eventually they're going to. Eventually they're going to. I believe this is a bold prediction. I think eventually they're going to have a peace treaty over there with the Palestinians. Eventually, it's going to be brutal. It's going to be long. Unless the Israelis and the Palestinians get down and do it, they'll eventually do it. And then they'll probably do I bet they do an adaptation of it. And then there's Phantom of the White House, right? And then I got political, Phantom of the White House. And then you have like a character with the mask and the hair, but you see it with the comb over and stuff like that, and who it is. And instead of, what was that? The something of the night? The tweeting of the night. Or all I tweet.
The tweeting of the night. There you go.
Instead of, all I ask you, all I tweet of you, and all that stuff. And then it finished up because the
But wait, the Phantom could not swoop from the riggings and rescue or take away the beauty, because obviously this particular Phantom would fall flat on his face. He's too fat.
Well, no, we just have like a Secret Service guy grab a porn star or something like that. He was into a porn star, right? And lay Magarabla or lay deplorables, right?
Les déplorables.
Deplorable. It takes. We could set it on a and it's you can have Trump is chased by a relentless federal prosecutor for obstructing justice, profiting from being the president, soliciting foreign interference in election, not just stealing a loaf of bread. So you got some palpable stuff. Advocating political and police violence, abuse of power.
Well, that would be perfect, Jim. That would be
Prosecuting
absolutely
political
perfect.
opponents, attacking the
A
free
lot of
press,
them still carry, pitchforks and torches. It's perfect.
And it'd be Don Valdon instead of Jean Valdon.
Yes.
And you'd have whoever the prosecutor eventually gets him and stuff like that. And he befriends a Slovenian prostitute, right? Who is his current wife, right? So you have to do a whole changeover of that. And there's a whole bunch of them like that. And then that's where I was thinking the whole night. And then I said, well, where the hell did that come from? And then earlier in the day, I recall, you think, all this stupid shit I think about. And you say, it's just, like the brain firing on a person that's dying. You have some crazy thoughts that probably pop in your head. I was listening to National Public Radio to this show called This American Life. And this is real. This is real. And they were doing, this episode was movies that people, it was a little lighthearted. It was just way people's perceptions change. And it was movies that they saw multiple times. Right? They just picked them out. And the one story was really great. It was just one of the producers on the guy's show, and what's the guy's name? That guy, Ira Glass is the host of This American Life. It's an NPR radio show. It's on Sundays at 11. It airs Sunday at 11 or 10 o'clock. I think it's 10 o'clock on Sunday on the National Public Radio stations. I love this show. It's something you can listen to, but I listen to it recorded as a podcast. And the producer watched multiple times The Sound of Music, right? But as it turns out, when she was a little girl, they had it on VHS, and The Sound of Music was a 2-tape movie.
Right, that's a long movie. Yeah.
And she never saw the second half.
No.
Yeah, she saw it right up to the intermission. And so she had her own impression, and it was crazy. Thinking she has her own impression of what The Sound of Music was about. Because, and this is her impression was that the main character of the movie was the young girl, Lisette. I think her name was Lisette. And she thought it was a mail carrier. A guy was a mailman, a young mailman, Rolf. Her boyfriend.
Right.
Because she said she thought Maria and the captain, or whatever his name was, Major, the captain. He was a captain in the Austrian Navy, I think. Von Trapp. Captain Von Trapp, the father. She thought he was the bad guy.
Right, the father.
She thought he was the bad guy. And Maria was just...
In the movie, he comes across like a real hard authoritarian with the kids, but I could see where she thought that.
Yeah, and because this part of the show, they made her watch the whole movie again. And then she said it kind of ruined the movie for her. because if you don't remember, it's like,
Oh, so
well,
she wasn't excited.
Lisette and Rolf weren't the main characters. She figured out, oh my God, I got it wrong. It was Maria and Captain Von Trapp, and Von Trapp was a hero. And matter of fact, she kind of liked the one part that really changed it for her was when okay, so Rolf turns out to be kind of a Nazi. You know, he's going along with it because at the time it was Austria was going through the Anschluss, and it was the acquisition of Austria by Nazi Germany. And it was kind of like the voluntary acquisition. It was as, there were some real diehard people in Austria that said, we want to go along with that. And, it wasn't the majority of the Austrians, even though Austrians are mainly Germanic, right? But there was a lot of other, in Austria, there was a lot of other minority groups. There were Hungarians and Bulgarians, all different groups, because Austria-Hungary was a big empire at one time. And so it wasn't a given that a majority of the Austrians wanted to go along with the Nazi Germany, but there was enough in the military and in the populace that when the Germans wanted to come in, there was nothing they could do about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they just rolled in.
They just rolled right in and said, "Oh, you guys are German now. You're part of the Third Reich, right?" Now, Von Trapp was an Austrian nationalist. He says Austria is his own country. Now, I'm not giving it. They may come a story and say Von Trapp was an anti-Semite. He didn't have a problem with all that. Well, it turns out a lot of people that didn't like the Nazis, they didn't like their policies too, right? So here's this woman. She thinks Captain Von Trapp is the bad guy, and the part of the movie. Hey, listen, normally I don't like to give spoiler alerts. If you haven't seen The fucking Sound of Music yet, you're gonna. You know what? You deserve to have it spoiled for you. Okay. So the Nazis are in there. The Von Trapps, Maria was, God, she was a novice nun. And the Catholic Church, some of the Catholics weren't so good at resisting the Nazis in the beginning, and through the whole movie.
Some were absolute collaborators.
Yeah, they were collaborators. And take this from you were raised Catholic too, right?
I
Italian.
was.
Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, I wasn't going to, because I had a friend who, my dad's best friend was Italian-American, but I think he was raised Lutheran, something like that, which is weird, DeMarco.
That is odd.
Name. I just assume, and, it's even more so than someone from Central America now, because they got Protestants in Central America and all that stuff, but that's neither here nor there. So Austria's completely Nazified, and the Von Trapp, Captain Von Trapp, reveals his love for Maria, goes and gets her from the convent, right? And they get married and blah, 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 blah. And they say, well, they're in love and stuff like that. And then they say, wait a second, Austria's Nazi now. It just turns out that here we are, we're Nazis. And they said, we can't stay here, we got to get out of here. Because they're going to force him they're trying to get Captain Von Trapp to join the German Navy and all this stuff because he was a good officer and all that. But if he didn't join, he would be put in probably one of their prisons. So they decide, do you remember this part? They go to the folk festival in Vienna, I think. And
right.
And it's a big festival with all these entertainment groups and the Von Trapp family. And, Captain Von Trapp says, well, I'm the head of the family. I'm going to be in your singing group, the kids and Maria and stuff like that. So at the point of the movie where, okay, they're ready to escape. They're going to escape right at that point. In the, I may get this a little out of order, but they just finished singing. And they're supposed to leave after they're done singing. They're supposed to get in a car and take off. And I think they may have, or something like that. I may get it wrong. But Captain Von Trapp gets up and he sings Edelweiss, which is kind of like an Austrian national tune, and it was taken as anti-Nazi, and he sings it.
Right.
He sings it on with acoustic guitar. Obviously, they didn't have an electric guitar at that time, but he's singing along and stuff, and all the crowd joins in, the Austrian nationalists, and they're kind of crying and all this stuff because, Austria, they're singing about Austria that's gone, right? That one that had art and it was a open society and things like that for Europe at that time. And then she realizes, she said, wow, Von Trapp is the hero. That's when she figures it out. And then when they meet Ralph on the roof of a house or something like that, and Von Trapp's talking to Ralph Lizette's boyfriend, he's not a postman, he's a courier, he's a military courier all that time. He was for the Austrian army, and then when the Germans came in, he gets a Nazi uniform. And Lisette thinks, oh, well, we can still get together. Oh, that's a nice uniform. Lisette has no idea what the Nazis are and stuff like that. And finally, he's not interested in her, right? And they're ready to escape and stuff like that, and he's ready to rat him out. And Captain Von Trapp talks to Ralph and goes, you're not one of them. You're never going to be one of them. And that's when the asshole kid blows the whistle to get the rest of the Nazis to chase him, and they got to go running up the side of the mountain. They climb the mountain. I don't think they escaped that way. I think they just drove into Switzerland, if I remember correctly, because I stayed at the Von Trapp lodge in Stowe, Vermont, and I asked people, I said, well, that story wasn't really accurate. They did a little
made for a great movie.
Yeah, made for Sound of Music and all that shit. But it was just so funny that one person not seeing the whole movie is kind of like a parody or a metaphor for life. How people don't know the whole story or a whole person, really, So you see the first half of the movie. They didn't see the whole thing through. Right? Think about it. Like, it's like you had friends, right, that you're old enough. I had friends that I thought I knew them really well, and then all of a sudden you hear something horrible happens, right?
Right.
And you don't really know. I didn't see the whole movie. I only saw the parts that I saw. And it changed the whole perception of that person, just like you would of a movie. Some people just see, and it's kind of like with our politics today, right? Immigrants are bad. Immigrants are saying, we hear the whole story. An immigrant breaks in, he breaks into a house, kills a family, right? But they don't see the other 10 million immigrants that are working hard and doing all this stuff, the rest of the story. They just see the first story. So all immigrants are bad. It's just the way thing they show on the news and stuff, the one thing. We don't know the whole story when some people scream fake news and all that stuff, because these news people are trying to get the whole story. There's a whole story. There's a simple story and there's a whole story. And until you get the whole story,
there's no way. Somehow we've convinced ourselves that we're entitled to hear a news story, and they have to provide every nuance, every angle, all the depth. I mean, they can only do so much, right? It's a presentation of information. But when did we lose our ability at inquiry, at research? I mean, we no longer want to go through the labor of finding stuff out on our own. So we become content with being told what to think. And we tend to gravitate towards those bubbles that have the chatter and conversations that we kind of agree with.
Yep.
Because the lazier we get, we don't want to put ourselves in a position of hearing the other side of the story. That becomes a conflict. That would require us to have to pay attention, to research, to look into things, to consider other points of view. I think we've become a little bit too lazy. And it just feels better, doesn't it, when everyone around you just agrees with you? I don't feel better, but it seems a lot of people feel really good always hearing people agree with them. It's just a sad state of affairs. It really is.
Well, I mean, it works in our legal system, let's say. If the prosecution or the defense only got their say, it's think of medieval or post-medieval Britain. They had the court systems and all that stuff, but it's mainly the kings. They're supposed to have defendant and stuff like that, but let's say before they started instituting the rule of law, it was pretty much if you shot a bow and killed a deer in the king's king's forest, you killed the king's property. You poached deer, and you could be put in jail for a long time for that, right? And all they had to do was go. Let's say this guy goes, his family's starving and stuff like that. You don't. All you know is he brought up on charge. This guy was guilty of poaching a deer. And that's the king's deer. You have to get permission to do that. And that's all they say. And they'll come up and present the thing, and they'll say, do you have anything to say? Well, my family was starving and stuff like that. Maybe they get to say that, right? But chances are they didn't. That's half the story. Same thing when, even now with women that respond to domestic violence. Let's say they're defending themselves and they end up shooting their abuser or killing them some way. A lot of times they end up in jail and they don't hear the backstory. Or the evidence is so prevalent for the murder of the abuser, but there's only hearsay evidence of the abuse. And they end up going, you know what I mean? They end up going to prison anyway. So, anytime someone doesn't really get the whole story, and that's why when news comes out, you're right. You can't. How does the news, the forest fires, or something turns out like there's a protest, and something happens, and they go, oh my God, look who it is. It's so and so. Oh, the BLM is rioting, and some people are murdered, right? And it turns out it's a right wing. It could be some guy from the Bugaloo Boys, right? You ever hear those guys?
Right.
Right wing group, and they go and instigate violence and stuff like that. You don't have the whole story. We really don't have the whole story. And then people try to change the story too, just like the Sound of Music. Like when it's Civil War, they're going to say the Civil War. Well, the Civil War wasn't about slavery. It was about states' rights. The states' rights to have slavery. Go back on it. That's the right. So that was the main thing. And you just want to be able to tell your side of the story. Right? And so Maria and Captain Van Trapp, they were in Insular. It's Ralph and Lisette, or Lisa, or whatever her name is. And they're the real. No, they aren't. No, they're not. They're not the people's story, because the girl never really wanted to see. The mother of the girl insisted that she saw the whole movie. Yeah, that was interesting, and I don't recall ever seeing half a movie as a kid.
No, me neither.
I mean, if I saw only half a movie and I didn't try to see the rest of the movie, that means I wasn't interested as a kid seeing any of that. You know what I mean? I could care fucking one iota whether I want to see it. And that may be the thing. I saw the thing I want. Like that girl said, I saw the thing I wanted to see. I don't need to see the actual events, right?
Right. Well, what's she saying? She's saying, I'm content with knowing what I know.
Yeah.
And so please don't tell me it's different.
Yeah. It's like the Usual Suspects. Right?
That's a great movie.
Yeah. The whole movie, Usual Suspects, Sixth Sense, whatever. The whole movie, you get one impression, right, of what's going on. And then you have the narrator, who's Kevin Spacey, telling his story that he wants everyone to hear. And it's only at the very end, when he leaves the police precinct and he's limping, that he starts walking straight. He lights up his cigarette, blah, 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 blah. And he's Kaiser Soze. Or in Sixth Sense, you think, wow, okay, and then you realize at the end, Bruce Willis is a ghost. I mean, it's just like, well, I don't want to know that part. I mean, if they cut out the last 5 minutes of it, you would maybe start suspecting that he might be a ghost.
Right.
But that movie was so well done with the twist.
Yes.
I mean, is there any other... If you just took out the last 5 minutes, it's a completely different movie.
No, the last 5 minutes in both of those films. So, I mean, it's the reveal. I mean, it makes the entire movie make sense.
It's the last 30 seconds in The Usual Suspects. I mean, think about, is there any other, just a tiny bit of information just changes the whole thing? Okay.
Off the top of my head, no.
Okay, well, I'll give you a premise. Trump has the ambassador of Russia and the foreign secretary in his office. He gets rid of the American translator, the American photographer, right? And only keeps the Russians in the room with him. And he says, well, they just want to have a private conversation. Well, on surface, there's nothing wrong with it. But then if you put everything else together, like he says, they might have they put the whole thing together. If it was a movie with all the things about phone calls and all the people with their contacts to the Russian government and Russian Secret Service, the FSB, if you put it all together, then you take all this together and you say, wait, there's probably something there. Or is it all coincidence?
Right.
Or it's all coincidence.
Well,
you say, how about if you just say, no, you can't see my tax returns, so you can't see the loans from any Russian financiers. Or hear about trying to build the Trump Hotel in Moscow. If you take each one of those separately, it's a completely different story.
Of course it is.
You put them all together. You got a real, you got to really think about it. But people just say, no, it's exaggerated. It's this, that, and that's just what you do if, like a woman says, well, listen, why'd you end up shooting your husband? Well, he abused me. These are the marks. This is where he beat me with the belt. This is what he did with this. This is where he choked me. These are the bruises on my neck. You can choose not to see the bruises on the neck, or the belt marks on the back, or the 911 phone call, or the neighbor's testimony, and all that stuff. If you choose not to hear any of that, all you have is a dead body, a bullet, and a gun with a woman's prints on it. Completely different story.
Yeah.
Yeah, she killed. She's wrong. She's a murderer. So that's the way it is. And people seem to be fine with that. It's a weak argument. It's like with they want a simple explanation for climate change. Oh, it just happens. Science, like Scientific America. You know the magazine Scientific America?
Right.
They just came out the first time in their history they ever endorsed a presidential candidate.
175 years, my friend. The
Yep.
first time.
And it wasn't, drum roll please, it wasn't Trump.
No, they are supporting someone at this particular time because of the urgency of the one candidate that supports science.
Yes, the one person that supports
Shouldn't really shock anyone, I don't think.
that scientists, it's funny, the people are defending their way of life. I'm sure some of them are in there for financial reasons. Some are in there for cultural reasons. Some, cultural reasons could be that because they think this. And I think some people make up this pro-life thing in order to be able to not like certain people. They can say, well, I'm kind of a racist, but I really have a problem with my big problem is with people killing babies. No, you made it important to think that you worry about killing babies because you really don't care about the babies at all. Because once they're born, ICE, they were sterilizing. They're sterilizing some of the.
There's about 8 women in Georgia that were sterilized.
Yeah. I mean, where is the outrage? Forced sterilization.
Oh, there's no outrage.
Forced sterilization.
There's no outrage.
If you're pro-life, you're pro-life.
Oh, don't get me started on fake religion.
Yeah, that bullshit. Stuff like that.
Again, it's people who find these bubbles of communication that coincide with their real inner emotions and their likes. Things that coincide with their dislikes, and they gravitate. It's easy. It's lazy. You don't have to think. It requires no cognitive function other than screaming the agreed to, chants.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
And these big fucking boat rallies and signs. Signs don't mean shit. People just think I'm going to put a sign in my yard. Look at that. I'm putting a sign.
Because they got a small penis.
Well, whatever that is. Whatever. You're going to put a sign in your yard. What the hell is that going to do? You know what? They're going to find out that all this shit they do, they're already motivated. We know who you're going to vote for. If you remember to vote. If they're smart enough to remember to vote. They may not even be registered, some of these idiots.
No, I will give them this. They're registered and they're motivated.
No, but they're motivating other people too. I swear to God, they're motivating other people. They're going to look at them. They're reminding other people, you don't understand. If you're that obnoxious to support someone that obnoxious, there's a lot of people think you're obnoxious. And they're not your close friends who are always going to vote like you and stuff like that. I think what happens is I really think that we're being deluded or denuded or whatever by people thinking that there are more of them than there are. Just like the moral majority. Remember that in the 1980s, the moral majority?
Yes, indeed I do.
And it was, it wasn't, they weren't a majority. They were a subset of they were a subset of a majority group, which was white people and some black maybe and stuff like that maybe, but a smaller group. There were a subset that voted in sync, meaning they voted for the same person. And Dick Cheney figured that out. Someone said, well, if we took the general population, only 32% of the people support. I think that was a number someone said to Dick Cheney. We could garner 32% of people like our policies. And Dick Cheney, who was a very smart man, right? See, I don't make that. I don't make a moral judgment on smarts, right? You're either smart or you're not.
No. Like him or not, he's a smart guy.
Smart guy. He says, I can govern with those numbers. Or maybe Karl Rove said it. We can govern with those numbers. Because the nice thing that the conservatives have on their side is they don't get new ideas. They got old ideas and they don't change and they don't split people. So build a wall, get the immigrants, throw criminals in jail, blah, 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 blah. This, that, pretend you're pro-military, right? Have a chicken hawk, a couple chicken hawks tell you what's patriotism. The guy that hugs the flag and stuff like that. Never served a moment, public life. They say he's serving as president. He's not serving as president. He's enriching himself. So I don't know how we got this far in this. I am so sorry. Why I thought, but they got such unchanging views. Conservative, and that's textbook. Conservative is old views. They're not open to change.
Yeah, generally, you're right.
So they're not open to change. They don't have to change. They don't have to modify their platform. They did it this year, the RNC. They didn't issue a platform. You know why? They don't need to. It's the old platform. There's no new ideas.
They don't have one.
They don't have new ideas. They don't have any health care plan.
They have no ideas because they addressed nothing. You just said it. Health care.
Get rid of it.
No, there's that's it. They kill what we got, but we have nothing to replace it with.
No protecting. Yeah. No, I mean they don't have anything to protect pre-existing conditions and stuff like that. Or the Postal Service, which is a service just like the armed services. We said that before. They're not meant to show a profit. They're quasi-public-private. The postal fees are to defer the cost of the service. We need a postal service. Okay? We need a postal service that's nonpartisan. So.
Yeah, we do. Unfortunately, they changed the law. The Republicans passed a law that said they have to be self-sufficient with their funds.
That's ridiculous. They said, okay, well,
they started tampering with the retirement system, which actually put them in a position where they could never be operating in the black. They will forever be in the red. So they were crippled. Remember, it is the Republican mantra: if it's government-owned, find a way to make it privately owned.
Well, what if the space every other thing? The space agency, the Navy, the Army, the Air Force, the Coast Guard, the Marines.
The weather. How about the weather?
NOAA. You didn't make any money. How much money did you make? Did you cover where's your budget coming from?
Yeah, listen, it's retarded thinking. It's backwards thinking. It's not meant to make money. But that's not what Republicans see government as.
Yeah.
By and far, they see government as an opportunity to make money.
Yep.
They'll come out and tell you that.
Yep.
And some people will criticize the Democrats for saying, well, they're the opposite. They want to expand government.
Yeah, well, one of my teacher Sky's teachers, they did in a history class or something. They were talking about political parties, and they said the Democrats are for a larger government, and we go, what? Wait a second. Services, more taxes, and I would display. I said more equitable taxation.
Yes,
that's what I dispute. I said I would want to talk to the teacher, but I didn't want to be one of those parents to say, you know what? I have more influence over my daughter than this teacher does. And I said, listen, this teacher's a partisan. Listen to her, but keep in the back of her head that she's talking from a partisan view. If I was teaching it and I said, this is a history class, this is what they stood for, and at the time, because I would have no problem to say, during the Civil War, the Republican Party was a party of abolition, and the Democratic Party was more of a party for business, and it was kind of role reversals. But that's just the way it is. Don't get locked up in the mantra and stuff. History is history. Why would you want to change it?
It isn't personal. It's just the way things played out.
Yeah. So, well, we did all things. We talked about our musical ideas. You didn't really critique it. What do you think about Poklahoma? And you say Poklahoma? Poklahoma sounds like a porn, a gay porn movie.
Exactly. Well, you're going to start putting the Catholic Church in something like that. You better make it Poklahoma, given their track record with little boys.
Well, wait a second. See, this is where I'm going to say one thing. One thing you want. It was both boys and girls and women and stuff like that. It's all it's ongoing.
Was it a free for all?
And one isn't the other. Like I want to just say, pedophilia is not to be equated with homosexuality.
No,
that's a totally different thing.
Not.
And it's actually because it crosses those things. So I wanted to, but Poklahoma does sound like a porn movie, and it would probably be a lot more popular. Poklahoma. Wow. That would be interesting. That would be kind of like the Heaven's Gate of adult movies. You remember Heaven's Gate?
Yeah.
Was that a Spielberg movie or Lucas, or it was one of those big directors, and it got out of control, and they just let. I was telling my Abby that at one time, if someone produces something like Quentin Tarantino or Spielberg or Lucas, after they had their big successes, right? They let directors or producers do whatever they want, crazy stuff. And that's how Heaven's Gate got me. That's how that movie, it wasn't a big blockbuster. A Quentin Tarantino movie. You ever hear this movie, From Dusk to Dawn? Did I mention that to you last week?
Not Dusk to Dawn, no. And I don't think I've seen that one.
Okay. It's two movies made into one movie. Okay?
Okay.
When you get if you can watch the whole movie, I'll just talk about it. I'm going to give you 1 week. I'm going to give you 4 or 5 days to watch it if you want to. Okay? Or any of the listeners. But I'm going to ruin it for you next week.
Okay.
I'm going to ruin it. I have a take on From Dusk to Dawn. And it was, I think Quentin Tarantino was just doing too much coke. He was too fascinated by, who was the woman? Uma Thurman's feet. He had a foot thing for Uma Thurman. But he's a crazy son of a bitch. And I love his movies. I love it. Little gory, but
yeah, they can be.
Movie gore, which is all right. But and I can't, and you know what? I've never been able to sit through Heaven's Gate. Heaven's Gate, oh God. It takes place in the late 1800s, I think. And it's about, I think it's a cattle baron versus townspeople, maybe, or something like that. But I'll tell you, every time I tried to venture into this movie, it was so bad. It's just, I'm watching it. I have an opinion on this show on HBO, Lovecraft Country. It could be unpopular to view. It could be unpopular. And you got to remember, I love African American art. The movies they made and all that stuff. But some stuff it doesn't make sense. And I had to make a decision the other. I was watching Lovecraft Country, and I think it doesn't make any sense. It's an HBO series. You hear about it?
No.
You know what?
Really watch
Luckily, I'm not that popular that it will be controversial for me to say, but I had to stop watching it because it doesn't make any sense. I liked it. I liked the beginning. I liked everything. I believe the thing they showed about It was the main characters are African American, and the racism in it is accurate. I think that probably an accurate depiction, right? But the supernatural stuff they put in it, I'm not quite getting it. It reminds me of it feels like 3 different movies pushed into one. You know? So.
Yeah, some of these producer directors, you scratch your head, and, or the writers or the executives. Why would you buy a script like that? But
it's almost as if they're writing the script while the filming's going on. I'm not talking about the night before. Like, here, we're filming right now. Here's your new dialogue. Boom. I'm like, holy crap, this is a situation? Okay, I didn't quite. I just had to stop watching. And I got to hear this afterwards. Maybe I'm, I don't know. Maybe it's too late at night for me to figure it out. I just don't. I mean, I can get a complex storyline. I just don't get this one. I'm just not getting it. And I think some people are afraid to say, I'm not getting it. I'm not getting that. Just a different view. And I saw this English HBO show called I May Destroy You. It's about a woman who... Did you hear about it?
No.
It's about this young British woman of African descent who's a writer who gets raped when she's out. And she's reconstructing the rape throughout the whole series and dealing with it and stuff like that, and dealing with her life and all that stuff. And it's kind of messed up, the stuff that goes on in it. But in the end, I thought it was great, well told, and showed all the complexities of her life. It was pretty, and I understood that, and I got it. I think they got a little too mismatched in this Lovecraft country, and I'll talk about that some other time if it behooves that. I don't know. Some people may get upset at, but luckily I'm not that popular yet that people will get upset about it. So I don't think I have a large audience that will be aghast at me saying that. I'm done.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Sorry. Sorry I said all that shit. But, hey, wish you could take it back. No, I couldn't take it back. So, Joe, I'd like to thank you.
You're welcome.
And if you download the show, I'd like to thank you for downloading it. And I did mention the phone number. I got to put a new title in here and all that stuff, because it's going to just post this episode 3. What did I say? 327. What do you think for a title? Pokelahoma, maybe. Maybe call it Pokelahoma.
Pokelahoma. That's perfect.
I want to call it Pokelahoma.
Then call it Pokelahoma.
Or, yeah, and now, but because I'm going to I have a picture of Dave Porabla. Dave Porabla. Man, I took French. How do you say it? But listen, if you're listening to the show, please follow us on Facebook and figure out how to get the live. Go to Spreaker. You can listen. If you want to listen to it live, go to Spreaker and listen to that. Or I think you can get it from the website, www.keysbartender.com. Or you can email any comments or questions or observations to jim@keysbartender.com. Thank you very much, Joe. I'm going to put on the music now. You ready?
Do it. Go for it.
It's going, Joe.
That is outstanding.
You can't hear it.
Oklahoma, where the wind blows right up my dress.
Yeah. Wait. Priests and nuns and popes better scurry when I'm out in my... And I've got to call it the Pope Mobile. Okay. So.